Hello, welcome to Have Roots Will Travel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. In this channel, over the past year, we've been looking at Les Filles du Roi. What started off as a very, very small personal project has ended up becoming a very, very large one, and we are now on episode 128. And we intend on doing all of Les Filles du Roi, which number in the 700s. So it should be interesting. Join me, please. You can subscribe and click on the notifications alert. Also, I have a Facebook group where I post the notifications of when I have a new episode. And I also have past episodes on my Have Roots Will Travel channel. So with that being said, let's get started and find out who is our Fille du Roi of this episode. So her name is Nicole Legrand, and she was a viewer request. Then when I looked in my files, she was also a great-grandmother of a genealogy colleague of mine, and also the daughter, my best friend's daughter's great-grandmother. So there you go. So we are going to study Nicole and find out what she brought to New France. So Nicole was born in 1648 in Paris, France, in the parish of Saint-Sulpice. Her parents were Nicolas Legrand and Anne Duplessis. As a side note, just want to make sure those of you who don't speak French, Legrand just means the tall one. So that's kind of interesting. Let's explore a little bit about the church where she would have been baptized. It dates from the 13th century, but it was actually rebuilt. Started in 1646, so it would have been kind of rebuilt around the time she would have been baptized. The first stone was laid by Anne of Austria, the queen at the time. She is born in the area of France known as le 6e arrondissement, the 6th arrondissement. That you can see how Paris is laid out in circles. They're called arrondissements, so round. It's also called, the 6th is also called Luxembourg. And because the seat of the Senate was here, and it is situated on the rive gauche so that's the left bank of the River Seine. It includes world famous educational institutions, particularly such as the Sorbonne was created here, and then it's just played a major part in terms of the culture and intellect and all of that. This is kind of I don't know, it just always seems to me to be a place where people thought and really examined all kinds of things during this period. So I really think that this particular arrondissement that she comes from is very, very much an area of deep thought and intellectual curiosity. And so this is where she's coming to us from. Even back then in the 1600s, it was absolutely one of the crème de la crème, if you will, of all the arrondissements. So that's where Nicole's coming from. Let's have a look at where she goes. After her father's death at about age 21, she left for New France on this Jean-Baptiste, June 30th, 1669. She didn't come empty-handed. She had a dowry worth almost or about 400 pounds. Not any small change. Just interesting, how much that would have made a difference in her selection. Let's have a look. So François Noël is the groom that she selected and who selected her. He was born in 1643 in a place called Échery, France. His parents were Pierre Noël and Elisabeth Augustin. It was really interesting when I reviewed this particular area. Nouvelle-Aquitaine is a region that encompasses the provinces of Aquitaine, Limousin, and Poitou-Charentes, as you're going through your research. He was born in the Deux-Sèvres, so you can see here in the county, it's right up on the top, and in the commune of Échery. Échery has about 4,000 people that live there, so it's a small town, but not that small. The Church of Notre Dame, where he would have been baptized, dates from the 11th century. And I just had to, and then this is a postcard that I found on the second two on the top. I just thought it was just very charming, very green. And this shows you on the upper right the Echeri on a very old map from the medieval times. That's how old it dates. It was there. Now, what I found really interesting, because I'm a cheese lover, is they make a brand of cheese here, Echeri. So if this is your, your background, you might want to try to find the cheese. Who knows? Don't know where you can get it, but I guess it's kind of famous for its cheese. So we don't know when Francois came. We assume he came, as so many did before, as a contracted engagé. I don't find him in any carnet soldiers, but that could be just me overlooking that. But we do have a marriage record, and it was in Saint-Famille, at Saint-Famille Church. On October 23rd, 1669 is when they got married. So the family settled on Ile d'Orléans. As many of you who have been following me this past year know, Ile d'Orléans is a place we go back to over and over again. Let me recap. Ile d'Orléans is located on the St. Lawrence River, about 3 miles east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians can trace their ancestry to the early residents of this island. The island has been described as a microcosm of traditional Quebec and as the birthplace of Francophones in North America. Now, the name Ile d'Orléans, it wasn't always called this. It was at certain points in its history called Grand Ile, Sainte Marie, and Saint Laurent. So in case you're looking for research and you come across these names, know that it also has that information. It was changed to Ile d'Orléans to honor the second son of King Francis, Henri II, who was the Duke of Orleans. And so you can begin to see the island. I want to just point to you on the top of your screen. You see Ile d'Orléans, and it's subdivided into 6 different sections. It's very important for you to know which section of the island your family lived on. Was it Saint-Famille? Was it Saint-François? And so on and so forth. The bottom 2 pictures I have are pictures that a friend of mine sent me on a recent trip to Ile d'Orléans. You can see on the bottom left how green and fertile. I mean, it's just a beautiful, obviously it's a step somewhere in time, like that old movie. And then we have a fromagerie, which is a cheese making factory. They have all kinds of, living in the past kind of places. So those of you who've been following me know that my dream and my plan is to go to Quebec on Ile d'Orléans. Even though I lived in Quebec for most of my life, I never got there when I was living there. So this is a pilgrimage back to my hometown of Drummondville, Quebec. But then we're going to move, and we're going to travel to Ile d'Orléans, and I hope to be able to do live feeds and that sort of thing. So that's kind of that's something that is really exciting me. So I was able to find the 1681 census that François Noël, 35, Nicole Legrand, who was 33, their children, Philippe, 11, Catherine, 9, François, 6, Pierre, 5, Marguerite, 3, Ignace, 6 months. They have 1 gun, 5 goats, and 5 arpents, about 3 acres of land they have. So let's have a look at the family they created. The family, let's just have a glimpse of, these were not, I always say, people don't change. It may have been 400 years ago, but people get, themselves in a knot. And so what happened is in 1672, Nicole and François accused their neighbor Anne Bardet, fellow fille du roi, of immorality. So they kind of stuck their nose in. But Anne fought back, and the next year, Nicole and François had to retract their accusations. So that's kind of just an interesting sidebar. Just don't always assume that these are, they're not perfect. And we're not perfect. They weren't perfect either. So it's just interesting to know, what was happening. And, in my mind, in my writer's mind, I'm thinking, maybe Nicole was jealous of Anne and was flirting with François. Who knows? You can conjure up all kinds of things. So let's have a look at the family they created. They would go on to have 10 children. Their firstborn, Philippe, would marry Marie Rondeau and have 12 children, 5 of whom would make it to adulthood. Marie's mother was another fille du roi, André Remaudière, who we featured in episode 90. Catherine would pass away at age 9. Francois married Catherine Rouleau and had one child who made it to adulthood before his early death at 27. Pierre married Louise Gosselin and had 10 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Claire died in infancy. Marguerite married François Chabot, with whom she had no children, and then she married Pierre Ferrand and had 8 children, 4 of whom made it to adulthood. Ignace married Marie-Anne Huard and had 5 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Michel married Agnes Marguerite Guérin and had 2 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Jean-Baptiste would pass away at age 6. Madeleine married Antoine Fortier and had 11 children, 9 of whom made it to adulthood. Remember I told you about knowing where your family was on the island? Well, here's an example of that right here. They were living in Saint-Famille and they moved sometime while their children were young to Saint-François. So perhaps the land was more fertile, perhaps they sold their land and got more land, that's for further research. But this is an example that we need to know where, because we'll know soon enough where they would pass away. Nicole would actually pass away first, which is doesn't happen very often. She would pass away on October 5th, 1713 at the age of 65, which, you know that's at least fairly old at that time. She and François would have been a few weeks shy of 44 years married. François would live on another 12 years, having transferred his estate to his son Ignace, and he was taken care of. So he died May 26, 1725. They are both buried at the Saint Laurent cemetery in Saint Laurent on the island of Orleans. So here's some more resources for you to further your research into your Quebec genealogy. We have La Société des Filles du Roi, which is a premier association for les Filles du Roi. It's been in existence since 1994. I am a member and a membership chairperson. So I would be delighted if you would check out that website, because I think you might be surprised at all the resources they have there. And then we have the Quebec Genealogical E-Society. I recently did a webinar for them, just to refer, and I've been a member for a few years now. So just really, they're up and coming. I really recommend them. 3, Nos Origines, a wonderful website. It's free to use, kind of a group thing. We have Généalogie Québec, which is a paying website. So, but well worth it if you're knee deep, as I am, in Quebec genealogy. We have 5 Migration, a free website, which I donate to from time to time. And everything you ever wanted to know about Les Filles du Roi. I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's a rabbit hole, but it's amazing. And then we have a Facebook group, Les Filles du Roi Descendants, which is a kind and warm, and I've not seen any kind of bad things kind of coming out of that particular website or that particular Facebook group. So I really like that. I'm not a big Facebook person, but love the fact that there's so many kind and generous souls on that group. As a final tribute, yes, indeed, we have Nicole and François on that monument at Ile d'Orléans as being, pioneers on the island. So that is something that y'all need to go to. Just count up all the people you'll have when you get there, as I will. There's lots and lots of people that that are pioneers. About 300 families on that particular monument. So I have not been able to find a Noel Family Association. If anybody knows of one, please put it in the comments below. I searched and searched, and then I just went, okay, I just can't find it. So I'm sure it's a fairly common name. So I'm surprised I didn't find it. But with that being said, I just want to say that Noel, François, and Nicole would go on to have, in 1729, during that study, they would have 89 descendants. So it is a testament to them and to their family and to what they did, that they grew and they actually had that many descendants by 1729. And obviously it kept going because my viewer and my the professional colleague that I have, and numerous others. I can't wait to see who's related. So that it's just a wonderful thing to see. Um, they didn't have 300 descendants, but they had 89. So it's a good solid number to, kind of grow the family tree. And with that, we end episode 128. Nicole Legrand was a pioneer at Ile d'Orléans. And as we've stated, she had 89 descendants as of 1729. I think she lived a life that was strong and didn't always, wasn't perfect, as we saw in the small snippet of information that they, had issues with their neighbor. But that just makes her more human, more real, and more relatable. And so we thank Nicole for her contribution and for her steadfastness and her ability to stay put and grow a family tree. And they did. So with that, we thank her for her sacrifices and we bless her memory. Until I see you on episode 129, au revoir.